Hey everyone, it's Mike. It's Monday, February 9th, 2022. It's cold and raining here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and so I thought it was a good day to do a channel update video. Now, the main reason for this video is to take you through a website I have been working on over the last 2 or 3 days. It's actually a reproduction of a website that I had up going back around 20 years ago when I was heavily into collecting Beatle vinyl, the old records, 33 RPM and 45 RPM. And I have Beatle albums from all over the world. And when you collect Beatle records, it's very important to understand the different variations as it pertains to the labels that are printed on the record. And of course, there are other attributes, even the record sleeves themselves and so on, or where records were pressed. But the labels themselves are very, very important. So I put this website up around 20 years ago, and what I was doing was basically sharing what I knew so that I can help fellow collectors, and I would get feedback from others, and I would update the website as new information came in. But it's been down now for about 15 years or so, and I was going through my computer hard drive, and I found the old HTML files. And so with a little tweaking here and there, I was able to bring it back to life, and I'll take you to the website in just a moment. A couple of things I just want to say that I'm going to be conducting another roundtable, this time with Ofer, Sally, and Vicky, and we're going to talk about the 2021 version of Memoirs. There is a lot more information, especially with regard to the footnotes. And one of the pieces of information that has come out of the book is that it strongly alludes to the fact that biological Paul McCartney did not die in a car crash. And we're going to talk about that. And that's one of the reasons why when I was asked during interviews about the conspiracy, I would say that the prevailing theory is that he died in a car crash. But how he actually died, nobody knows because there's no direct evidence. We have no eyewitness. But it's very interesting now that Billy is pushing the envelope and he's going in that direction. I will say this, the 2021 version of the book does get darker, and it's not for everyone. Okay, so I just want to point that out. A couple of weeks ago, there was, I guess it was a guitar channel that did a, quote, voice analysis, and they were trying to prove that Paul McCartney has always been Paul McCartney. And what they actually did was an auto-tune analysis. So this person looked at certain notes in Yesterday and then certain notes in Hey Jude, and then was seeing a variance or delta to the note. In other words, a little sharp or a little flat. So they found that pattern in Yesterday, and then they saw a similar pattern, a little sharp or a little flat to a particular note in Hey Jude, and then determined that it's the same vocalist. The problem with that analysis is that if you had 100 people sing Hey Jude, you would find there's a percentage of those 100 people, let's just say 20 people, 20%, where you would find that very same variance or that very same anomaly, a little sharp or a little flat, with regard to a specific note or notes. So if you have 20 people where you see that same pattern, do you then conclude that those 20 people are also Paul McCartney? And the answer is obviously no. So that analysis, it is a vocal analysis, but it is, I call it an auto-tune analysis. It's to take a look at where a vocalist is a little sharp or a little flat with certain notes. But that's something that is very, very common. It's ubiquitous across singers and vocalists. So it's not unique, is what I'm saying. But what is unique is a voice print analysis, which is also referred to as a sonogram. And what I mentioned in my video going back a couple of weeks ago, because folks had asked me about the analysis that this person did. And by the way, I'm not picking on them, okay? I don't do those things. I'm just explaining what it is that I got from the video, knowing what I know. That's all, okay? So what I said I was going to do was to get a copy of this Life magazine from November 7th, 1969. You can see it's 40 cents back then. The good old days. And the title of the article, The Case of the Missing Beetle. And then they follow with, Paul is still with us. So we can already see that where they're going with this, that Paul has always been Paul, right? But this was the magazine that talked to Dr. Henry Truby's sonogram work. And that's why I wanted to get a copy of this edition. Also, I should add, before I go any further, take a look at the guy in the front cover. That's not biological Paul McCartney. Okay? So for those who are out there who want to be objective about looking into the conspiracy, you really should spend some time looking at the facial features, the nose, the eyes, the ears, the face, the jaw, all of that stuff, the height. In fact, what I'll do is, at the end of this video, is put in a slide that I used to show going back about 5 years ago. The title of it was Not the Same Guy. So on the left, I had biological Paul, and then we had Billy with his mullet and the very long face. And it's very, very clear that they're not the same people. But in any case, going to the Life magazine article. So it's about 3 pages. And you see the title of the article, The Magical McCartney Mystery. And the article goes into about 10 to 12 of the clues that you could find on the albums. So from the standpoint of the average person who bought the magazine back then, who probably didn't know much about the conspiracy, it was helpful from that perspective. But what it was not helpful with was Dr. Truby's work. So I was expecting a lot more, quite honestly. And so let's take a look. Let me just see if I can do this. All right. So hopefully you can hear me. You see the bottom and you see 2 images. Those are the outputs from the voice prints or the sonograms. Okay? And the little blurb, well, it's to my left. I guess it's on your right. I don't know. This thing is probably backwards. That's all they say about Dr. Truby's work. That's it. 3 pages, and you get that one little paragraph. So I'm going to read it to you. All right. Okay, let me put my readers on so I can read it to you. Dr. Henry M. Truby of the University of Miami found sonograms of Paul singing Hey Jude of last year, meaning 1968, suspiciously different from the phrase, quote, all my troubles from yesterday, which was done earlier. And they're talking about 1965. Could there have been more than one, and they have in quotes, this is very interesting, McCartney? Okay, that's it. Now, to do my presentation, I wanted to find information out about Dr. Henry Truby, aside from the fact that he was a professor at the University of Miami. He seems to have been pretty much scrubbed off of Google. So I had to use Start Page, and I was able to find information. And Dr. Truby was very accomplished, highly credentialed, and highly skilled in voice prints and linguistics. In fact, one web page I came across said that he had written something like 250 pages on the human voice, on linguistics and voice prints and all of that stuff. So he was very prolific and very accomplished in his field. And he also was called in as a witness to certain trials when they were analyzing voice prints. So he was no slouch. But the thing is, like I just mentioned, you can't find him anymore on the web, especially on Google. He doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. I mean, we have a Wikipedia page for everybody, right? Snoop Dogg has a Wikipedia page. But Dr. Henry Truby, a very, very accomplished professor, nothing. Really nothing. So what I need to do, and I pulled a bunch of information, is to bring it all together so we can get a very good, solid background of who Dr. Truby was. Because he's not alive anymore, I don't believe. And Dr. Truby, if you're listening to this, and you are, I apologize, but I don't think he is. I also found a very good clip from I Am a Phony where Dr. Truby is in the video. So I will include that in my presentation as well. Some of what I read going back to the old forums, and we're talking about 2003, 4, 5, 6, and so on, I mean, years ago, is that he was asked about his sonogram or his voice print analysis of McCartney, and he later on said, I don't talk about that anymore. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing. So, which sounds like somebody got to him. He either got a phone call or somebody knocked on his door and told him to shut up. So, and that's how it goes, right? So those of us that know about this stuff in the deep state, people think that stuff is only in James Bond movies, but it's not. Okay. So I'll put that together. We'll talk about Dr. Truby, and we'll get a better understanding, and we'll understand that his voice print analysis was very legitimate, and in all likelihood did prove that there are different people singing on the songs. In fact, I think he found 3 different vocalists, which is interesting in itself because in memoirs, Billy tells us there was another person playing the role of Paul McCartney that had a hit. But memoirs does not tell us whether that hit came during the Beatle era or post-Beatles, solo career stuff. Okay, so in any case. All right, so let me pause for a moment here. Oh, wait, before I do that, let me just say this. I took the video down on the lost tapes of the Beatles. There were too many issues with some other music that was mashed up inside some of the songs, not all of the songs. In the description box, and also I pinned a comment which said that the audio cannot be validated, and so therefore look at this as entertainment only. So for entertainment purposes only. But, you know, there was just, I don't know, there was too much of it for me to be comfortable, so I took it down. So in case anybody's asking what happened, that's what happened. Like I said, some of the songs were legit. There was no mashup. But the fact that there were still some songs in there, I took one out. Somebody had slipped in From Me to You, I think the song was, but it was done by Yes, going back into the 1960s. I yanked that out. But I wasn't going to go through it and yank all the other stuff out. I just said, you know what, just take the video down. It served its purpose for 2 weeks. It was entertaining. People liked it. There you go. All right, so let's go to the website. I will be right back. Okay, so here's the website, and the graphics that you see here were on the original web page. And the first page is the Beatles, US and UK labels, a quick reference, and it is a quick reference, but it's pretty thorough. And so what I do is I take the collector, or the potential collector, through the different labels, and I start with the VJ releases, and this would be introducing the Beatles. And by the way, this is the most counterfeited Beatle record of all time. The first 3 images you see here, 1, 2, and 3, these are authentic. And here, that is a typical fake label right there. Okay? And then I take you through the capital labels. These 2 labels here are referred to as the capital bullseye or target labels. And the red one in particular is of interest because no Beatle record in the US was supposed to have been pressed with this label. In Canada, they did, but in the US, no. But one record was mistakenly pressed on this label, and it was Revolver. And I have one of the very few copies of that pressing, and it's highly collectible. Back in the day, when I was at the height of my collecting, I actually had others who were collecting, big names at the time, reach out to me and want to know if I would sell this. And I wouldn't let it go. To this day, I still have it. And the way I got it, it's unbelievable. I was on eBay, and the person was selling the record. And it wasn't a very good image that they had up. And I looked at it closely, and I said, you know what? I think that that's the rare label, because it has the Capitol logo right here, the bottom right along the rim. And I got it for like 40 or 45 bucks. The record, I have no idea what the record is worth today. Going back around 20 years ago, it was probably around $1,000. And so when it came in, I still had no idea because, like I said, the graphics were a little fuzzy. And I didn't want to call it out in the questions in eBay because everybody could see that. So I just took a shot. I thought, okay, so for 40 bucks, if it's not what I'm hoping it is, I have another Revolver album. But when it came in, there it was. It was a beautiful moment. Anyway, so then I take you through the different iterations of the Apple label in the US. And then after Apple, we're back to the Capitol labels. Many of you will probably remember the orange label. This was around from 1975 through 1978. This is when I was in high school, junior high, high school. And then I take you through the UK labels, the Parlophone labels. Now this label here in the upper left-hand corner is referred to as the Parlophone Black and Gold label. This was the label that was on the Beatles' very first album, Please Please Me, which was their debut album, which was released on March 22nd in 1963. This is the Australian version of the label, which is almost identical to its UK counterpart. The UK version is more collectible. In fact, it's very collectible. I don't know what Please Please Me is going for these days on the black and gold. Back then, going back many, many years ago, it could run you anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500, depending upon the condition of the vinyl. But this label is very sought after. After Please Please Me, they moved to the yellow and black labels. Okay? And I do have the UK version of this label. I think I have two of them, along with obviously the Australian, because these images are from my collection. All right, so as I page down, you can see there's a lot more information on how the labels and the dead wax are coded. Very important to understanding when you're collecting. In fact, I have to reread this because I forgot more than I remember. As I was doing this, putting the website back up, I was thinking, oh my God, I can't believe that I was doing all of this work at the time, but I did. And then at the very end, there were some links. There were links at the bottom of the original website going back 2 decades ago as well, but all the links are dead. So I had to scour the internet to find links that were very similar, that covered the same type of material and content, and I was able to do that, so that's a good deal. And then I have more information on the Capitol releases, and these are images I've had on my hard drive for a long time. They were also on the original website. And this webpage goes into more detail in calling out why the labels are different. So you'll see the yellow arrows. Okay? And then something that's always been an enigma to a lot of Beatle fans and Beatle collectors is, what do the numbers on the White Album mean? And so I tell you what the numbers mean, and basically it's a chronology. So depending upon where they were at with a certain number of pressings, sometimes in the early pressings it was all numeric. And then later on they added the A, and then there was the dot, and then there was the A again, but this time it wasn't pushed all the way to the left. It was contiguous with the numerics. And then they went back to numbers, but then they put NO or number, and this is superscripted here. And then they had a version where the N and the O were both in uppercase. So that's the difference between here and here. But it has to do with the pressings. And then at some point, they just abandoned the numbering altogether, and the White Album didn't come with any numbers. But then when they started doing the reissues, they were going back to the numbering motif. All right, but originally there was numbers, and then at a certain point, no more numbers. And then last but not least, if you're interested in collecting vinyl, you're going to run into the situation where the covers or the sleeves, well, sometimes they need repair. And so I had this on the website as well. I talked about how to repair album covers, cracks, stuff like that. How to get magic marker off them, pen. And I also have a little blurb on restoring the cover of your White Album, because the White Albums would get, scuffed and stuff like that, and they would have the wear from the record. It would come through the album sleeve, and so if you wanted to clean it up, which I did to all of my White Albums, the ones that are in my collection, they came out very, very nice. So if you ever want to fix up your White Album, the cover, here you go. All right, so that's basically it. And I don't know, I thought it was a good idea to put it back up. All this work went into it. And like I said, I forgot more than I remembered. So it was good to go through it again as a refresher for myself. But I know there are folks out there that collect. Vince Russo, as an example, is a collector of vinyl records. So Vince, if you're watching this, go to the website here. The link will be down below. I am going to try to, over the next few weeks or so, to see if I can get some better scans, because these scans go back to, 20 years ago, and the resolution on the scanner at the time, isn't like it is today. As an example, it's very hard to read the print along the bottom of the rim here on this Apple label. So I'm going to try to see if I can get some clearer images. But this will suffice for now. Okay? That's it, folks. And I hope you have a great day. And the comment section is open, so we'll talk soon. Bye-bye now.